Hi there, this is Stephen with Karma Astrology, and I was just going live. It is Saturday, April 10th, 2021, here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's the afternoon, about 1:18 p.m., and I was just gonna do a daily transit update or just kind of talk about what's going on in the sky in order to give you an idea of what kind of energy we're dealing with on a day like today. Or I do this every day, so today is the 10th. It also might be the 11th, depending on where you are in the world. So, keeping that in mind, we are also having a new moon tomorrow, so I'll do a different update for that tomorrow night. And usually I do a nakshatra update, which is an Indian constellation. There's 27 of them in the zodiac, but currently we're still in kind of the middle of Uttara Bhadrapada, which I covered yesterday, if you want to check out my video from yesterday. And I'll just kind of cover that information a little bit more today in case you didn't check that out. Uttara Bhadrapada, if you can see the moon over there in Pisces, up here, is MO. So the moon is at about 12 degrees and 30 minutes in Pisces, so 12 and a half degrees. And what that part of Pisces is about is this deep inner kind of stillness or darkness or peace in a way. Pisces is a water sign, so it's all about our feelings and our emotions and our ability to kind of connect and flow with all of the different forces that are going on in our lives. Excuse me. Now, Pisces is also the last sign in the zodiac, so Pisces is generally about letting go. In in Vedic astrology, we talk about how the houses have a quality about them, and there's the Dharma houses, the Artha houses, the Kama houses, and the Moksha houses. And Dharma kind of means truth or kind of righteous purpose, life path, so one of those kind of individual truths kind of thing. Your higher self or your true self or capital S self. Those are all kind of your dharma in a way. And then your artha is about value or wealth. And so it's what, we have this dharma, we have this truth, and then we have to support it somehow. And we accumulate wealth and resources and we utilize them in order to fulfill our dharma in a lot of ways. But wealth is definitely an integral part of the living manifestation of existence. And then there's kama, which is about desire, and that's everything from your most hedonistic desires to your most spiritual desires. So kama has this sort of attractiveness to it, and as our desires, obviously, a lot of times we are living through our desires in many cases, and and so just depending on who you are, we all have needs and wants and kind of joys that we want to fulfill in this lifetime, or our legacy, or maybe interacting with other people. These are all kind of common desires that we have. And then finally we have the moksha houses, which is about liberation. And so liberation in terms of letting go. And that means letting go of the things that we want to let go of, like our stress, our anxiety, and letting things go of the things that we don't want to let go of, like our relationships, our loved ones, our money, our lives. In the end of the day, sometimes it's different depending on your perspective, but there's this interesting, well, that brings me back to Pisces. Let's go full circle. So Pisces is that last sign in the zodiac. So it has a lot to do with that kind of 12th house, or this moksha, which is a moksha house, this moksha or letting go energy, liberation, the freedom to just be disembodied, to not even be in or forced to kind of participate in the experience of reality or manifested reality around us in order to just let go and maybe kind of sink back into other states of existence or planes or realms or whatever you want to call them. So there's a lot of this let go energy right now, as you can see with the moon, Mercury, and the sun all in Pisces up there. Excuse me. I have some allergies, so if you don't mind just bearing with me if I clear my throat every now and then. So, but this is really interesting because, all these planets are getting very close to the sun. Mercury is creeping up on the sun pretty quickly. It's at 18 and change, and the sun's at about 27 degrees. It's just about to change over. Probably is now. And the moon is at 12. And so all of these planets, and Venus actually on the other side just entered Aries, but it's still within about 4 to 5 degrees of the sun. And so what all this does is make these planets what we call combust. Now, combustion is when a planet gets within a certain degree of the sun, and each planet has a certain degree that it takes in order to be considered combust. The fiery ones, the more volatile ones, the more airy ones get combusted at a little bit of a further degree away from the sun than the cool and dark and earthy planets in a way. Um, but all of these planets are within the realm of combustion in terms of Vedic astrology. And when we look at combustion, it shows that we get a little more short tempered, we might get a little more frustrated and annoyed, and in the kind of realm of the planet that's being combusted, that's very close to the sun. Because the sun is a very hot planet and it tends to bring out a lot of our dharma, but a lot of our kind of inner passion and our spiritual vigor in a way. So when we have all this passion and all this like righteous energy that we want to fulfill and take these big, powerful, radiant like the sun, you know, make a big difference in the world. It tends to kind of burn up our relationships or our sense of communication in the terms of Mercury, and our emotional stability in terms of the moon, and our relationships in terms of Venus. And so all of these areas are kind of getting a little bit on edge potentially. So just be careful. Venus has been around the sun, and Venus and Mercury are always pretty close to the sun. In general, they don't get too far away from our perspective here on Earth. um, but in general, um, something to be, careful of is blowing up or having too short of a fuse, and so we need to be just careful about getting too angry or too short with our speech, especially as Venus is now making its way solidly into Aries as it's approaching the 1 minute mark or 1 degree mark, excuse me, in Aries. Excuse me. And what else is going on out there? So yeah, keep in mind, try and keep it cool. Maybe, if you think of about the sun, it's this hot, radiant, just burning planet. It's not a planet; it's a luminary. But if you look at the root of planet, it actually kind of means wandering star, and that's what um, these words are kind of rooted around. And whatever the case, we have these planets very close to the sun, and we have the moon very close to the sun from our perspective, so that kind of makes us a little more heated. So remember to cool off, maybe take a bath, kind of observe these Piscean principles. Um, Try and be more still, find more alone time and time in isolation. Just invite in a little more peace and calmness into your life in general over the next couple days. And then, I'll talk about that a lot more tomorrow when the moon goes conjunct or joins the sun at the very end of the zodiac in Revati. And then we start a whole new year, which will be pretty cool in terms of setting intentions and getting the ball rolling. So right now, this is before the intention setting. We're letting go of what we've been working on for the last year. So think about this time during COVID, during, everything that's going on in the world, in your life. What lessons have you learned? What big picture, big ticket items have you had to deal with? Has it felt like began last April and are now kind of coming to a conclusion that you can let go of? Much like gardening, we have a seasonal nature to so many aspects of Earth because the seasons kind of dictate our lives on this planet with regards to our food supply and everything, right? Weather, and so temperature, of course. And so when we approach this time of spring in the northern hemisphere and fall in the southern hemisphere, of course, This is our astrological year. So, from our perspective on Earth, the sun has made one trip around the zodiac. And so we've gotten a little piece of each of those constellations beamed into us, like kind of through the lens of the sun. And the more that we've been able to uptake the different lessons that have kind of come up in our lives for each month in particular, and maybe for the entire year as a whole, the more that we're able to evolve and grow and spiritually develop, which is, in my opinion, one of the goals of being here, or yeah, one of the main purposes of being here on Earth. So, or being a human, we all want to kind of evolve, and especially in Vedic astrology and in Indian culture, there's this concept of karma and reincarnation, and making attempts to evolve your spirit into a state of self-actualization so that you become karmically neutral and kind of float off the wheel of karma. You achieve a certain state of consciousness that's so expanded, so wise and so profound in your general state of awareness, and your lack of any sort of attachment to this material physical realm, or even the spiritual realm eventually, in which we all just kind of merge into this blissful oneness. So that's kind of, but until then, we're working to get there. So, in case you weren't aware of that perspective, that's kind of the basic framework behind Sanatana Dharma. And yeah, what else is going on out there? So Venus is in Aries now. That's going to make our relationships a little more fiery. You might want to watch out for fighting. You might want to watch out for acting just too aggressively in general with other people. Don't get into an accident or take things too personally in traffic when people cut you off, because people tend to cut each other off a lot more when Venus is in Aries. I've noticed personally, but that's because I've lived in DC, and uh, might be geared a little bit more towards cutting people off in traffic than a place like I live now, like Santa Fe, where it doesn't happen too often. But it does happen a little more often when Venus is in Aries. So, and on top of that, Venus is really connected to Mars right now because they're exchanging signs. If you look, Venus is in Aries up here, and Mars is in Taurus up here. So Venus rules Taurus and Mars rules Aries, and that kind of creates this connection between the two planets currently that really makes us more aware of how our individualism and our ability to fight for what we believe in. Mars is about survival and its basic instincts, but and this kind of animalistic fight or flight kind of nature in us. But it's really about defending ourselves and the things that we love. And that could be, just ourselves, just our ego, all the way out to the entire multiverse, and really associating, as we get more evolved, as we raise our level of awareness into a state of a self-actualization over time, then we realize that we are all just one consciousness taking many, many forms. And then our Mars, that protectiveness inside of us, wants to not just protect us and our ego and our tiny little world, but the entire world around us. It makes us just uh, kind of defensive, or I wouldn't want to say defensive, but definitely considerate, and willing to take action on on the behalf of others for their benefit. And so that's kind of a beautiful thing when we're able to expand that. And when Mars and Venus switch signs, Venus is the sign, or the planet, that relates to our interpersonal relationships and our ability to interact with other people in general, our social skills, and society and culture in general. And um, it's the primary indicator, as they say, of relationships. So your primary partner, or maybe a business partner, but it's really people that are your equals, someone that you really consider to be kind of your countrymen, or someone that's really um, just someone that's equal to you in status, in a way. So when Mars and Venus switch, we end up wanting to maybe defend our partners more or fight our partners more. It could be, one or the other. So it's really good to watch our temper around our relationships. Um, it's nice to support our partners and to do things that are protective if they're done for good reasons and with full respect for everyone. But just keep in mind it's going to bring a little more fire into our relationships, as Mars is this passionate, fiery energy, as you can tell, and Venus is the planet of relationships. And what else is going on? So Mars is going to be leaving pretty soon, leaving Taurus, but otherwise it's going to be there for another few days, so we're going to still have this kind of fiery aggressiveness going on. And then in general, I've been saying the Sun and Mercury and the Moon and Venus is now in Aries. They're all going from the water sign of Pisces into the fire sign of Aries. That's just a month-long thing for those guys. But in terms of Mars is moving from an earth sign into an air sign, and Jupiter just moved into an air sign as well. So there's a lot more fire and air than earth and water that was mainly prevalent this past year in a lot of ways, with Mars and Taurus for the last couple months, and Saturn and Pluto, as you can see, in Capricorn with Jupiter for the last year. So now that air energy and this fire energy is starting to enliven in us, and that's really getting us to be more social, more active, more talkative, and all of this sort of ways that these light kind of very, I would say, not very dense energies, unlike the density of Earth and the density of water and the stillness that creates, and kind of the deep-rooted foundation that we've been working on over this past year. Now we're ready to kind of see what's above ground. We're in the air realm where we're, absorbing energy and exchanging things really quickly, and then fire realm where it's more about purification and righteousness and doing things that are bright and powerful and strong and just enlivening, invigorating. So keep that in mind over this next month. It's really going to start amping up our energy, and you'll see people talking a lot more and, maybe getting more passionate about their values and standing up for what they believe in a lot of ways. And talking, and definitely communicating. Jupiter in Aquarius is going to keep us, very connected to our social networks and all of our groups and just friends and people that we like to communicate with and share ideas with, so that we can hopefully make the world a better place together. All right, I think that's going to do it for today. I hope you had a nice time. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment if there's anything you want me to cover or have any questions or anything you want to say. And then otherwise, subscribe if you want to see more of these, because I plan on doing them on the reg, and then I'll come back tomorrow with a new moon forecast. New moon in Pisces. So otherwise, catch you later.